Okay, it's 12:45. Hola, feliz Cinco de Mayo. Today we're going to do our entire presentation in Spanish. I'm just kidding. I wish I could. I'd be really proud of myself if I could do that, but it's not going to happen. But I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Commission on Chicago Landmarks, our regular meeting on today's date, May 5th. I'll do the roll call to start. Vice Chair Jekowitz.
Present, I can hear and see you.
Thank you. Is Commissioner Cox on yet? He is not. Commissioner Burns.
Present, I can see and hear you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hughes.
Present, I can see and hear you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ponce.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm okay with that. I guess I'm saying.
Commissioner Ponce.
I can see and hear you. There we go.
Thank you.
Unmute.
Thank you. There's Commissioner Tolliver here. Not yet. Okay. I do believe we have a quorum. I am Ernie Wong, the chair of the commission.
They both just popped on.
Commissioner Tolliver's here.
Thank you, Commissioner Tolliver, and Commissioner Cox. You're on too.
Commissioner Cox is here.
Thank you. Great. So in 2020, Governor Pritzker signed Public Act 101-0640, making certain amendments to the Open Meetings Act so that we, along with other boards and commissions, can continue to host virtual meetings during the COVID-19 public health emergency, provided that certain conditions are met. One of those conditions is that I, as head of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks, determined that an in-person meeting of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks and its permit review committee are not practical or prudent. I want to make sure that our virtual meeting meets all the conditions of the Open Meetings Act as amended. Therefore, I'm making a determination pursuant to Section 7E2 of the Open Meetings Act that an in-person meeting of this Commission on Chicago Landmarks and its permit review committee is not practical or prudent. Similarly, I am also making a determination pursuant to Section 7E5 that because of the disasters declared by the governor, it's unfeasible for at least one member of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks or its chief administrative officer or its chief legal officer to be physically present at the meeting place for either meeting. Pursuant to a resolution adopted by the Commission on Chicago Landmarks on June 4th, 2020, regarding the chairman's emergency rulemaking powers, I issued emergency rules governing the conduct of remote public commission meetings and provisions for remote public participation, effective February 18th, 2022. These rules were posted on the Commission's website. In line with these emergency rules, today's regular Commission meeting is a virtual meeting being simulcast to the general public via live streaming. Commission meetings have been held virtually since May of 2020. Meetings are structured to minimize the chances for technical difficulties. Members of the general public have been encouraged to submit written statements in advance of the meeting, and these have been posted on the Commission's website and are available for viewing during the virtual meeting at www.chicago.gov/CCL. Per the emergency rules, verbal statements by the general public for all agenda items will take place at the beginning of the meeting, so all those wishing to speak at today's meetings should be signed into the Zoom meeting at this time. Before we hear staff presentations on the agenda items and ask to hear from owners or applicants or their teams, we'll open the floor up to members of the general public who wish to comment about the items to be heard on today's agenda. Members of the public wishing to comment should use the raise hand function on Zoom to indicate that they wish to speak. Members of the public not using a smartphone or computer and instead phoning into the meeting should press *9 to activate the raise hand function and do the same to deactivate it. I or the meeting facilitator will call out the names one by one and unmute those people. Once unmuted, speakers should give their full name and organization, if any, they represent. Each speaker is allocated 3 minutes to speak. Once all members of the public wishing to make a comment have been given an opportunity to do so, we'll go through the agenda. I'd ask that owners or applicants and their representatives, as well as aldermen, wait to speak until after the staff presentations have been made on their agenda item. Are there members of the general public who would like to make comments about agenda item number 2, the report from the Department of Planning and Development and final landmark recommendation for the Paseo Baliqua gateway flags at West Division Street at Artesian Avenue and Mozart Street? Is there anybody who's wishing to speak?
Chairman, we have Lisa DiChiera.
Okay, Ms. DiChiara, floor is yours.
Hi, I actually was raising my hand for the second item, but I'm certainly in support of this effort. This is Lisa DiChiera, Director of Advocacy Landmarks Illinois. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else on this
Chairman,
item?
we have one Eduardo Orocho, but he was already in the list of people to speak for the second agenda item, but he has the hand raised.
Okay. Mr. Ochoa?
Hi, I can wait for later if that's more convenient.
Okay, for the second item or the
Boricua?
no, why don't you go ahead right now?
Okay, thank you so
That'd
much.
be great. Thank
And
you.
thank you all. I want to, on behalf of the Puerto Rican community in Chicago, I want to thank the commission for considering the Paseo Baliqua gateway flag as a landmark. Since as the former executive director of the Division Street Business Development Association, I have seen incredible
I'm so sorry, Mariam, please pause the clock. Mr. Orocho got unmuted. So sorry about that.
No problem. As I was saying, as the former executive director of the Division Street Business Development Association, I have seen personally the enormous development and effort of the community since the placement of the Paseo Baliqua gateway flags. Our business community has grown. Many longtime business have stabilized and are still in continuing to provide service and do business here on Paseo Baliqua. The number of murals has grown exponentially, and we have created a beautiful business and cultural district that is unique in the United States. I am the owner of the Paseo Baliqua tour company, and last year, despite the pandemic, over 1,400 people have visited Paseo Baliqua, have dined in the local restaurants, have learned the history of the Paseo Baliqua gateway flags, and the murals and the Puerto Rican community, and it has just has become a wonderful place to visit, as well as a exciting location to visit for many tourists and people from Chicago to learn more about the Humboldt Park area. Everybody that I have spoken to and many people in the community are just really glad, and many thought that it was already a landmark. But I think officially, once this occurs, it's going to highlight Chicago as a prominent place for Puerto Rican community history, and a unique place where it really celebrates its neighborhoods. So I want to thank again the commission for proceeding with this designation.
Thank you, Mr. Orocho.
Ms.
Yeah.
Lisa DiChiera was next.
Okay, thank you. Lisa, you want to take that again?
Hello, this is Lisa DiChiara, Director of Advocacy for Landmarks Illinois. And I just wanted to say that we are in full support of the final landmark recommendation for Monumental Baptist. And very excited to see this designation moving forward for this very important building. Landmarks Illinois did provide a preservation heritage grant to the congregation back in 2016 to go toward the replacement of a boiler. We're well aware that they have some other pressing condition and rehabilitation needs in the main sanctuary. So we're happy to work with staff on talking about ways to help with that effort in both identifying technical assistance as well as financial assistance. So again, in full support. I also just quickly, Chairman, on another matter, just want to quickly note that we, like Preservation Chicago, earlier in the year did include the Consumers and Centuries buildings at 202 and 220 South State Street on our most endangered list announced on April 20th. This is a critical issue. While I know that these buildings are not currently landmarked by the city of Chicago, they are in a National Register district and owned by the GSA and funded for demolition. If this demolition goes through, this will leave a significant hole in the State Street commercial district in an indefinite way beyond what we ever thought we'd see again from a Block 37 type of situation. So again, I urge the commission and the department to continue to work with all of us on reaching out to the GSA, Senator Durbin, and really trying to find a solution for these buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. DiChiara. And for the record, that was those comments were in respect to the third agenda item, the final landmark recommendation on the Monumental Baptist Church building at 729 East Oakwood Boulevard. Who's next speaker?
Preservation Chicago.
Okay, and that is.
Hi, this is Mary Lou Seidel. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Mary Lou. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Mary Lou Seidel with Director of Community Outreach and Engagement with Preservation Chicago. I am speaking in support of the Paseo Baliqua gateway flags. We, as the gentleman spoke earlier, I don't really know what else I can say. I could share my own personal experience when I spent a weekend in Humboldt Park with my young son, and we went to the Puerto Rican Heritage Festival. And at the end of the festival, he said, "I want a flag big enough so I can be the king of Puerto Rico," because he saw everybody wearing their flags. So every time those flags reach little white boys and white girls too, it's an amazing way to share culture and history. And we really support that community and keeping their heritage alive in Humboldt Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lou. All right, seems like we're jumping around here. Is there anybody else who wants to speak on the Paseo Baliqua gateway flags?
Mr. Chairman, this is Alderman Maldonado.
Yes.
Would this be the moment in which I would testify, or?
Alderman, if you would not mind waiting until after the presentation that
Sure.
the staff was going to give, and then
Definitely.
we have you scheduled at that time.
Thank you so very much.
Okay.
Chairman, there are no other hands raised for this.
For the public. Okay. Are there any other hands raised for the Monumental Baptist Church building?
We have Preservation Chicago again.
That was Mary Lou Seidel who just spoke. Oh, no, she spoke on the Paseo Baliqua. Who is that Mary Lou who's going to speak on Monumental
And the
Baptist
person
Church?
who just raised their hand, please identify yourself.
Hi, this is Max Chavez, Director of
Thank
Research.
you, Ms. Chavez.
Great.
Okay.
You can hear me all right?
Yes, we can. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, this is Max Chavez, Director of Research and Special Projects at Preservation Chicago. I'm speaking now just to voice and reaffirm this decision to pursue official landmark designation for Monumental Baptist Church. This church is an important Bronzeville fixture and a combination of appropriately monumental architecture and important social and historical relevance for the surrounding community. If and when landmarked, this would be the third building in Chicago associated with Patton, Fisher, and Miller to receive the special designation after IIT's main building and Machinery Hall, which along with Monumental Baptist Church are some of the best Romanesque or some of the best examples of Romanesque architecture in Chicago. With regards specifically to Monumental Baptist Church, it's a Richardsonian inspired lantern tower and is a rare feature here in Chicago. So we're happy to see that it will likely be preserved for all time to be viewed and appreciated by the local community as well as Chicagoans all over the city. In the wake of the devastating fire at Antioch Baptist Church a few weeks ago, it's clear we must be doing all that we can to protect and honor Chicago's rich heritage of historically Black churches while they're still standing. The history of Monumental Baptist Church and its leaders, its congregation, they're an integral part of the story of Bronzeville. So we're happy to see that through landmark designation, this history is going to be enshrined and documented with care. Again, we want to extend our thanks once more to landmark staff, the Commission on Chicago Landmarks, and Monumental Baptist Church themselves for their dedication in moving this landmark so close to the finish line. We look forward to the soon to come designation of Monumental Baptist Church as Chicago's newest official landmark. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Is there anybody else who's scheduled to speak on Monumental Baptist Church?
Chairman, there are no other hands raised for this project.
Thank you, sir. Are there members of the general public who would like to comment on the fourth agenda item, the preliminary decision on permit application for demolition pursuant to 2-120-740 through 2-12825 of the municipal code for 2229 West Augusta Boulevard?
I'm sorry, Ernie, before you begin with that, were you asking for a comment from the fourth ward about the previous item?
Prentice, I was going to say that if you would like to speak, we're going to do the presentation on that. And then we have you scheduled to speak at that point. This is just for the general public.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Chairman, we have Max Chavez.
For the demolition permit? Okay. Mr. Chavez?
Yes, hi, thank you. So again, this is Max Chavez, Director of Research and Special Projects with Preservation Chicago. I'm now speaking on the proposal for demolition of the 2-flat at 2229 West Augusta in the Ukrainian Village district. We're happy to see that it looks like there's been a recommendation to disapprove the request for demolition, as this 1909 structure is a contributing property within the larger landmark district. Because an approval for demolition without a clear structural or safety reason would really set a dangerous precedent for the unneeded and wasteful demolition of contributing structures in other Chicago historic districts. Outside of maintaining this and future districts, this really is a question more so of rampant citywide demolition and what we're doing to discourage and stop it. When we allow unnecessary demolitions, instead of requiring creative adaptive reuse or maintenance and rehabilitation, we're allowing for the elimination of much needed housing, the wasting of already existing building materials, and many times just the creation of vacant lots that do nothing but chip away at our streetscapes and communities. The elimination of already existing and oftentimes affordable housing is one of the clearest issues at hand when it comes to unchecked demolition here in the city. Vernacular housing, much like this 2-flat, as well as 3 and 6 flats, bungalows, workers' cottages, they're disappearing citywide, and many times they're being replaced by new build single-family homes that make no use of on-site building materials. And all this does is reduce urban density at a time when we should be doing the exact opposite. We're encouraged that the recommendation seems to be to deny this request for demolition. We hope that there are further steps taken to discourage demolition of perfectly functional housing. Instead, moving forward to encourage and incentivize reuse and rehabilitation, especially in historic districts. This could include, but it's not limited to, updating the CHRS, increasing the length of demolition holds, and issuing additional financial incentives for historic property owners just to start. We're all working towards maintaining a healthy, diverse, and thriving city. And we can do our part in this by honoring our built environment and existing housing stock through making it more difficult to demolish buildings that are already standing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Is there anybody else on this item?
There are no other hands raised, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I believe that all members of the general public who have indicated to speak have indicated they wish to speak on the agenda items. Therefore, this concludes the public comment portion of the meeting, and we'll go through the agenda at this time. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. This was the regular meeting on April 7th, 2022. Is there any discussion? If not, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve those minutes.
So move.
Okay, Commissioner Tolliver moves it. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Second by Commissioner Jekowitz. I'll do the roll call. Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce.
Yes.
I'm a yes also. The meeting minutes are approved. Second item on the agenda is the report from the Department of Planning and Development and final landmark recommendation for the Paseo Baliqua gateway flags in the 26th Ward. This is West Division Street at Artesian Avenue, 2400 West, and Mozart Street, 2800 West. And this is Alderman Maldonado's ward. But I'd like to call on Commissioner Cox for the DPD report and Matt Crawford for the staff report.
Excellent. Thank you. Moment. Is this slide one? Okay, there you go. Thank you. The Department of Planning and Development finds that the proposed landmark designation of the Paseo Baliqua gateway flags supports the city's overall planning goals and is consistent with the city's governing policies and plans. The two gateway flags mark a 1/2 mile section of Division Street in the Humboldt Park neighborhood. This stretch of Division Street is known as Paseo Baliqua and forms the economic, social, and cultural heart of Chicago's Puerto Rican community. The Department of Planning and Development and Department of Housing have pursued several affordable housing, cultural, and public health development projects within a short distance of the flags. One of these is the Humboldt Park Health Wellness Center. In March, the Plan Commission approved a proposal by Humboldt Park Health, formerly Norwegian Hospital, to build a 3-story, 45,500 square foot wellness center on a vacant lot it owns at 2933 West Division Street. The community-oriented design by JGMA architects will offer healthcare to area residents who disproportionately suffer from diabetes and congestive heart failure, as well as services such as rehab for stroke victims. The center will also include a wonderful natatorium with a formidable pool, a track, and several fitness areas, and a sports medicine clinic. 3 blocks to the east, construction is underway of the Nancy Franco Maldonado Paseo Barrico Arts Building. The development is being implemented via municipal bonds and will include the construction of a new 5-story mixed-use building with 24 affordable residences targeting artists and their families. There will also be 2 commercial retail spaces, including a black box performance theater that will be leased by a local theater company. The housing department is in partnership with the Hispanic Housing Development Corporation, working on 2 new affordable housing developments in very short distance from the flags. 40 affordable units are planned for a site at 1237 North California Avenue, most of the apartments will be 2 and 3 bedroom units. All are geared toward working families. A few doors down at 1201, 1209 North California Avenue, the Hispanic Housing Development Corporation is planning this 64 unit affordable housing complex with 2,500 square feet of commercial space and 19 parking spaces. In conclusion, the department supports landmark designation of the Paseo Baliqua Gateway flags to recognize the cultural contributions of the Puerto Rican community in Chicago. The flags promote community pride, enhance the sense of place in the neighborhood, and demonstrate that the space is cared for. These are goals that the department encourages. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. Matt, do you have a staff report?
Thank you, Commissioner. Can you hear me?
We sure can. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Commissioners, last month, you voted in favor of a preliminary landmark recommendation for the Paseo Baliqua Gateway flags. These sculptures are public art and they're owned by the City of Chicago and maintained by its Department of Transportation, which is consented in writing to designation. You just heard a favorable report from Commissioner Cox, so now you may consider a final recommendation to City Council. You'll note that we have compressed the steps of the designation process. This is being done in order to complete the designation in time for the Fiesta Boricua de Bandera a Bandera, the Flags to Flags Festival in September. So should you vote a final recommendation today, we can begin the City Council and finish the designation in time for the festivities. And before I continue, I do want to heartily thank the authors of the designation report who iterated the cultural value of these sculptures. It's Jose Lopez, Executive Director of the Puerto Rican Cultural Center of Chicago, and Eduardo Arocho, who you just heard from, Executive Director of the Division Street Business Development Association. The two flags, as Commissioner Cox has just noted, mark a section of Division Street, which is the heart of Chicago's Puerto Rican community, and it's known as Paseo Baliqua. Last month, you preliminarily determined that the flags meet 3 criteria for Chicago landmark designation, including 1 for heritage. Many of the buildings on Division Street were built in the late 19th century and early 20th by European immigrants. So the addition of the Paseo Baliqua Gateway flags in 1995 makes manifest the Puerto Rican community's presence and persistence in Chicago, the state of Illinois, and the United States, given that the Puerto Rican flag is the most significant representation of Puerto Rican consciousness and identity. In addition to the symbol of the flag, the welded steel tubes from which the sculptures are made have their own meaning and tectonic symbolism, as these represent aspects of Chicago's industrial production in which Puerto Ricans played a major role, including steel fabrication, pipeline construction, and welding. The flags were dedicated on January 6, 1995, marking the most important day of the Puerto Rican ritual calendar, Three Kings Day. 1995 also marked the century anniversary of the Puerto Rican flag itself, which was designed by pro-independence leader Antonio Velez Alvarado while he was living in exile in New York City in 1895. The flag was sewn by his daughter, Maria de Sousa, shown here at right. Since 1995, as Eduardo Arocho just noted, the flag sculptures have raised the visibility of the local community and business market, established a brand presence for the Paseo Gariqua cultural enclave. The Paseo has become a thriving commercial strip with nearly 50 businesses enhancing the area between the two flags, and which employ more than 300 people directly from the community. The importance of the flags is reflected in murals on the Paseo that include depictions of them, as these two murals do. You have also preliminarily found that the flags meet Criterion 4. The design of the gateway flags successfully transforms rigid steel tube and plate into a dynamic visual representation of flowing cloth. The flags have been recognized with numerous awards, most notably the Building of the Year Award presented by the American Institute of Architects in 1995. Each flag weighs about 45 tons and rises 56 feet into the air and spans 59 feet across Division Street. Each flag is built up with hundreds of steel tubes, and the structure exhibits a high level of technical excellence in steel design and fabrication. Last month, we determined that the flag sculptures meet Criterion 7 as unique visual features in Humboldt Park. As towering symbols of the flag of Puerto Rico, long a symbol of Puerto Rican consciousness and self-determination, the gateway flags are a distinctive visual feature in Humboldt Park and unique sculptures in the city of Chicago. In addition to the landmark criteria, the flags also meet the separate integrity criterion. They possess a high degree of integrity. They remain in their original location, and the setting on Division Street continues to be the heart of Chicago's Puerto Rican community, as it was in 1995. The exceptional design value which renders steel into flowing cloth remains undiminished with the passage of time. Although nearly 3 decades have passed since their dedication, the flags remain an important symbol of community pride and presence. The flags are located in the 26th Ward, and Alderman Maldonado has expressed complete support for this proposed landmark designation, as has the Chicago Department of Transportation. So we recommend that the significant features be identified as all elevations of the 2 Paseo Baliqua gateway flags. And we have a final landmark recommendation to that effect. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Does the commission have any questions of Mr. Crawford before we go to our next speakers? And okay. Oops, I'm just pressing buttons here. So if we could hear from Mr. Lopez. You're on mute, Mr. Lopez.
Okay. So I definitely want to underscore what has been said about this project. I want to thank the commission and the Department of Planning. I think this will add new dimensions to making Chicago truly a city that is really global in terms of its presence. As the world moves into a population that's mostly urban by the end of the 21st of this century, the 80% of the world's people will live in urban communities. It is important that Chicago be obviously setting trends. And by designating these flags, I believe Chicago is doing that, as it did with the landscape designation of the Little Village archways, because it set Chicago into a process of really viewing a new vision of the cities that sees the city as the world in the city, where people can come and gather and celebrate their differences as part of their own humanity. I just want to remind the commissioners, there's a wonderful quote from the Quran which says, "We have made you different so you can know each other." The very idea of our humanity is premised on the celebration of our differences. And by so designating these flags, you obviously live up to that standard.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. And for the record, could I have you state your full name and the organization you represent, please?
Jose E. Lopez, and I am the Executive Director of the Puerto Rican Cultural Center, Juan Antonio Correa, in Chicago.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Maldonado, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you so very much, Mr. Chairman. I know that I will not be able to be as eloquent as Dr. Lopez was. He is our conscious of our Puerto Rican community, and I know I have to say that he has been the force behind us bringing those flags back in 1995 under my predecessor, former Alderman Billy Ocasio, to Division Street. It was back then I was a county commissioner, and I do remember being told that it took I don't know how many hours to transport these flags from wherever they were built. They had to close access through the highway so that they can make it into Division Street do it overnight. It was really an amazing task to bring those flags to Division Street. And I'm deeply humbled and honored to be able to testify before this distinguished and honorable commission in your contemplation and deliberation to support in the final step in acknowledging and designating the two flags along Division Street as the Chicago landmark. I have to tell you that, as I said before, these are the largest Puerto Rican flags in the world, not only the United States, not even in Puerto Rico, you find flags this large, this big, or any other part in the world. And the beautiful thing about it, it is in the heart of our Puerto Rican community, what we call the enclave of our Puerto Rican community. And it really solidified what we call our designation, our pedacito de tierra, our little piece of land that we have in the city of Chicago, as calling it as the Puerto Rican community. And also, it is in the center of what is becoming the Puerto Rico town. We did pass a resolution last year renaming Division Street as Puerto Rico town. That was followed by a statute that was approved in the General Assembly designating Division Street as Puerto Rico town. So it will be such a pleasant surprise to the Puerto Rican community if we are able, with your support, to be able to announce on the Labor Day weekend during the Bandera Festival, the festival between flag and flag, on the weekend of Labor Day. And with your support, we're going to be able to provide and give this great gift and this pleasant surprise to our Puerto Rican community attending that beautiful festival that we have every year along Division Street between the two flags. So with that, I want to thank again the Puerto Rican Cultural Center, my predecessor, and I want to thank the commission for considering approving this project as a Chicago landmark. Thank you so very much for your for the opportunity to speak before you.
Thank you, Alderman. Does the commission have any questions for Alderman Maldonado or Mr. Lopez or Mr. Rocho or the Department of Transportation? If not, I would like to call for a request a motion to accept the department's report and adopt the final landmark recommendation for the Paseo Baliqua gateway flags. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a lot of moving there. Commissioner Jekowitz, who is the second person to speak up? We'll get the second.
You could make that me, Commissioner.
Okay,
Burns.
Commissioner Burns. All right, let's go through the roll on this. Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce,
Yes, gladly so that we are sembrando raíces, planting roots. Very humbled and honored to be a part of this.
Thank you. Commissioner Tolliver.
Yes.
And I am a yes also. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. And we will see this this wonderful honor go up on the Labor Day weekend. So thank you. For
Thank you.
everybody's
Thank you
help.
so very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox.
Congratulations.
Wonderful. Okay, next item on the agenda is the final landmark recommendation for the Monumental Baptist Church building in the 4th Ward. This is located at 729 East Oakwood Boulevard. And I'd like to call in Mr. Crawford for the report, please.
Thank you, Chairman Wong. Commissioners, you'll recall that you voted a preliminary landmark recommendation for the Monumental Baptist Church on March 3rd. Last month, you heard a favorable report from the Department of Planning and Development. In April, the congregation owner of the building consented in writing to designation, so you may now consider a final landmark recommendation to City Council. The church stands at 729 East Oakwood Boulevard in the Bronzeville neighborhood within the larger Grand Boulevard community area in the 4th Ward. Oakwood Boulevard is part of the Chicago Park Boulevard System Historic District, which we listed recently on the National Register. Your preliminary recommendation found that Monumental meets 4 criteria for designation, including 1 for heritage and Criterion 3 for the church's association with energetic community leaders. I wanted to discuss these 2 criteria first in combination. The church traces its origins back to a congregation of Baptist students and faculty that formed in 1868 at the old University of Chicago, shown here. That congregation built the present church between 1899 and 1901 and christened it Memorial Baptist. In addition to worship, Memorial hosted speakers and events that reflected progressive era concerns, including women's suffrage, child poverty, and temperance. Like most congregations, Memorial failed to integrate as the neighborhood transformed from white to African American during the Great Migration. In November 1925, Memorial closed its doors and put the building up for sale. In 1934, the church entered into its second and current chapter when it was purchased by a Black Baptist congregation and rechristened as Monumental Baptist, which it remains today. During the 20th century, Monumental emerged as one of the largest and most active congregations in Bronzeville. In addition to spirituality, it served as an influential social, cultural, intellectual, and political force in its members' daily lives. During this time, the congregation was blessed with energetic pastors who advocated for social justice for the congregation specifically and African Americans in general. During his 2-decade tenure, Reverend J. L. Horace used his background as a combat veteran from World War I to demand an end to segregation in the armed services and defense industries during the Second World War. And there was Reverend Dr. Morris Harrison Tynes, pastor from 1953 to 63, who maintained Monumental's position as a place of cultural uplift and social justice. As the modern civil rights movement picked up steam, he helped organize the Prayer Pilgrimage for Freedom in Washington in 1957, an early event in the civil rights movement. And at Monumental, he hosted speakers on African and African American history and culture. Tynes was followed by Reverend Dr. D.E. King, pastor from 1967 to 1986, who helped found Operation Push, led by Jesse Jackson. That year, King invited the board to Monumental for its first meeting, shown here. In addition to these pastoral leaders, there were also other important figures associated with the church's prominent music program, including choir director Arthur Logan, who led the church's Goodwill Spiritual Choir to performances throughout Chicago and broadcasts, as well as album deals. Beginning in 1968 and spanning over 3 decades, Monumental became known for its sold-out Christmas production of Handel's Messiah. This performance was led by acclaimed sopranos Hortense Love and Edna Williams, both members of the congregation. The star of the show was internationally famous actor and baritone William Warfield, best known for his starring role in the 1951 musical adaptation of Showboat. In addition to heritage and significant people, we preliminarily found that the building also meets Criterion 4 for architecture. With its tall central tower wrapped with an arcade of windows and surrounded by projecting gables, the form of the building is that of a central lantern, paying homage to Richardson's Trinity Church from 1877, shown at the left. And here are just a few details of the exterior, showing round arches, rusticated stone, and complex roof lines, all character-defining features of the Romanesque. Here's the worship space with its soaring dome with lantern windows and clear span interior. Here's the Sunday school with clear story windows and movable classroom partitions, a type of church space known as an Akron plan. The building was designed by the Chicago architectural firm of Patton, Fisher, and Miller, who we found meets Criterion 5. Architect Norman Patton, working both on his own and over time in various partnerships, was noteworthy throughout the Midwest for specializing in the design of institutional and ecclesiastical buildings. Here are a few Chicago examples, including the Machinery Hall and main building of IIT, which are designated Chicago landmarks. Finally, we determined in the March meeting that the building meets Criterion 7 as unique to the future. As a fortress-like Romanesque church surrounded by low-scale residential buildings and the open space of Mandrake Park, Monumental is afforded a prominent visual appearance. Drivers exiting DuSable Lakeshore Drive onto Oakwood Boulevard also encounter a significant view of the building. In addition to the criteria, we found the building also possesses integrity. Monumental has remarkable integrity to convey its cultural and architectural heritage, especially considering that for most of its 120-year history, it has served as a community that has endured this investment. Changes to the exterior include replacement of the original clay tile roof, new doors, and some new windows. These changes are typical of a building of this vintage and do not diminish its heritage value. The church is located in the 4th Ward, and Alderman King has expressed her support for this designation. As I noted, the congregation has requested designation. They've consented to it, and I believe Shirley Newsom of the congregation is here. We recommend that the significant features be identified as all exterior elevations, including roof lines of the building. And you have a final recommendation to that effect. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Does the commission have any questions of Mr. Crawford at this time? Matt, could you, did you say that any of the interiors were also being protected on this proposal?
Thank you, Chairman. No portions of the interior proposed for inclusion in the significant feature.
Okay, all right, just checking on that. If there are no other questions, I'd like to call on former Alderman, Ms. Newsom. If you'd like to say a few words, love to hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to you, as well as the remaining members of the commission. Our pastor, the Reverend Cleophas J. Lee, could not be with us today because of a prior commitment, nor could our local landmarks team chairperson, Ms. Wanda Power, be with us today. She was recently hospitalized and could not appear this morning before you. And so I'm here to represent our congregation, and the thing that I am to do first and foremost is to thank Commissioner Cox along with the members of the Department of Planning and Development that have worked with the Monumental Landmarks team to get us to this point. And we wanted to especially thank our project manager, Mr. Matt Crawford, our photographer, Patrick Pasica, our coordinator, Candlin Hahn, and all of the other individuals who have worked behind the scene along with these department heads to get us to this point. We thank you for your diligence and for staying the course with us as we went through this process. I am also to thank Mr. Chavez, as he earlier alluded to the fire that took place at the Antioch Baptist Church. And I'm sure you have probably heard and read the response of not only the congregation of that church, but the local community that surrounds that church, the important role that the church played and continues to play in Black and Brown communities. Not only are they places of worship, but they are also places where residents come for social activity. They come for refuge in some cases. And in many instances, the churches supplant the local government in providing counseling for mental health purposes, providing food and clothing for the needy. And so we come today requesting that you favorably consider the landmark designation for Monumental Baptist Church so that we might continue to be a church that is prominent in our community and services our community through a number of different areas. And I want to thank Landmarks Illinois for their acquiescence to this designation, as well as Preservation Chicago. We appreciate the support that you too are providing us and have provided to Monumental Baptist Church in the past. And that is my task as designated for today. I'll be happy to respond to any questions or concerns that you may have. I am also to re-invite Commissioner Cox along with Commissioner Hughes to come and take that tour that our pastor committed to share with them earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newsome. Really appreciate that. Mr. Butler, would you like to say a few words, sir?
I will definitely say a few words. I think all of Newsome has said it all today. We are thankful for everyone at DPD and all the stakeholders for shepherding this process forward. And we're hoping this marks a bright new future for the institution. So once again, thank you all for this work. And we're definitely supportive of Pastor Lee's efforts to landmark this historic building in the community.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Does the commission have any questions for Ms. Newsome or Mr. Butler at this time? Or would you like to make any comments? There is, go ahead, Commissioner Hughes, please.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much, Ms. Newsome, for coming. You did an excellent job on behalf of the pastor and your congregation. And I can't wait to take that tour. And we are wishing, and I think I speak for all of us, a speedy recovery for her when she comes back, and we look forward to seeing her. But I'm so proud of this moment. I think you said it perfectly and eloquently that churches anchor our communities, and they're kind of that place of refuge for us and camaraderie. And so it's more of a comment, no questions. I wholeheartedly and fully support this designation.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Ponce.
Yes, I agree with Commissioner Hughes as well. I wholeheartedly support it. And my question to you is, can I come to the tour? I would love to be a part of that.
I'm sure you are very welcome. Commissioner Cox.
Yes. So it sounds like our delegation is growing, and I really look forward to it. The photographs that you shared of the interior suggests that it's more beautiful on the interior than it is even on the exterior. I hope that once it is designated, that the congregation will take advantage of the Adopt a Landmark. I did notice that there's some deferred maintenance on the interior, that the grants are specifically built to address that. And I just appreciate you and your congregation taking this on, because I don't think anyone really appreciates what a challenge it is to do this work just as volunteers. And I was happy to hear you thank so many of those on the preservation staff and in the preservation community. And so you realize that there's a whole group of folks that surround these institutions to make this work possible. So I just thank you for stepping forward. I have a feeling other congregations will be looking at you as a lead, and it'll be that much easier for them to step in and preserve the legacy of their presence in these communities. So it's great to have ambassadors who've gone through it and are all the better for it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. If there are no further questions or comments, I'd like to call for a motion to adopt the final landmark recommendation for the Monumental Baptist Church building. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved, Commissioner.
All right, Commissioner Tolliver and second by Commissioner Hughes. I'll do the roll call. Commissioner Jekowitz,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
So proud to say yes.
Commissioner Ponce,
Yes.
and I am a yes also. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. And we look forward to that tour. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the preliminary decision on permit application for the demolition pursuant to 2-120-740 through 2-120-825 of the municipal code. This is in the Ukrainian Village district at 2229 West Augusta Boulevard in Alderman Hopkins Ward. And Joyce, I think you have this one. If you could take us through this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The existing brick 2 flat was built in 1909. A demolition application for this building was received by Historic Preservation staff on April 14th, 2022. In the building catalog of the Ukrainian Village Extension 2 District Designation Report, the subject building was preliminarily identified by staff as contributing to the district. The building catalog is a preliminary staff analysis solely provided as guidance for property owners and the public to anticipate how these properties might be treated under the landmarks ordinance. It is a preliminary staff opinion and non-binding to the staff and commission. By ordinance and the commission's adopted rules and regulations determines by the commission on whether a building is contributing or non-contributing to the district are made on a case-by-case basis. Individual building basis as part of the permit review process. The commission makes no such determination as part of the designation process. The permit review process is contained in sections 2-120-740 through 825 of the ordinance and Article 4 of the rules and regulations, which includes a specific criteria used by the commission for determining whether a property contributes to the character of the district. As part of this process, in-depth research and a detailed analysis of the individual property is prepared and staff makes a recommendation to the commission. Article 3G4 provides 6 criteria for determining whether the building is contributing, and I will go through each of these. The first criteria asks if the subject property exhibits the significant historical and architectural features of the district. These are identified in the designation ordinance as all exterior building elevations, including roof lines, visible from the public's rights of way. Per the ordinance, the district exemplifies the high quality working class residential architecture constructed on Chicago's west side in the Westtown neighborhood during the late 19th and early 20th centuries as first German, then Polish, and finally Ukrainian immigrants settled in the neighborhood. The staff analysis determined or demonstrates that 2229 West Augusta is a two-flat built in 1909 and was home to German and Polish working-class immigrant families. Also per the ordinance, the building types in the district are uniform, with the vast majority being flats and apartment buildings. These buildings are visually unified by their overall design, roof line, setback, and use of building materials and architectural detailing. As a two-flat, 2229 West Augusta represents a significant typology in the district. Character defining features exhibited by 2229 West Augusta are its small front yard and narrow gangway passages running along the sides of the building, a front porch that provided comfort in the summer months, a front projecting bay that brought in ample light and ventilation, and a flat roof topped with a raised parapet trimmed with limestone coping and a cornice featuring limestone band and patterned brick. The second criterion asks if the building exhibits the general historic and architectural characteristics associated with the district. Research of permit records have revealed that the building's original date of construction is 1909, and the Sanborn Fire Insurance map from 1916 shows the same building outline on the lot. The building is identified as a brick building of 2 stories in height with a basement with a 1-story wood frame porch and a 2-story wood frame rear porch. The Sanborn Fire Insurance map from 1950 shows the same outline and notations as in 1916. Criterion 3 asks if the property respects the general site characteristics associated with the district. The designation reports notes that the properties in Ukrainian Village District Extension 2's uniform building heights and setback from the street gives the area a distinct visual quality. The siting of 2229 West Augusta is consistent with the district. It stands on a 30-foot wide and 125-foot deep lot, which is a standard size lot for the district. The building is rectangular in plan with a front bay measuring approximately 24 feet wide with gangways between the neighboring buildings to the east and west. 13-foot, 7-foot deep front yard is also consistent with the other building's relationship to the street. Criterion 4 asks if the subject property exhibits the general size, shape, and scale associated with the district. Ukrainian Village District Extension 2 is a cohesive ensemble of early 20th century 2 and 3 flats and apartments. The subject property is a 2-flat with a raised basement and has a 24 by 59 foot wide footprint and is very consistent with the other buildings in the district. The building consists of a flat roof, which is standard form of the 2 and 3 flat building type. Criterion 5 asks if the material of the subject property are compatible with the district in general character, color, and texture. The subject building is clad in brick, which is a common treatment used on 2 and 3 flat buildings and is embellished with limestone trim. Finally, Criterion 6 allows that a building that has been altered may be deemed contributing if the alterations can be easily reversed. The roof of the front porch is currently clad in synthetic siding and the original wood windows have been replaced. However, these changes are considered minor and can be easily reversed. The building remains in its original location and historic neighborhood setting and continues to function as it was originally built in 1909. Should you agree that the building is contributing, Article 3, G3 of your rules and regulations establishes that the demolition of a contributing building located within a landmark district is an adverse effect on the significant historical and architectural features. In conclusion, staff recommends the following. Find that pursuant to Article 3, Section G1 of the rules and regulations of the Commission, the significant historical or architectural features of the district are all exterior building elevations, including roof lines visible from the public rights of way. And B, preliminarily find that the 2-flat at 2229 West Augusta constructed in 1909 is contributing to the character of the Ukrainian Village District Extension 2, which includes brick 2 and 3 flats lightly embellished with limestone, pressed metal, and art glass constructed between 1905 and 1917. And C, preliminarily find that the demolition of a contributing building or structure within a landmark district is a per se adverse effect on the significant historical and architectural features pursuant to Article 3, Section G, 3B of the Rules and Regulations, and D, pursuant to Section 2-120-780 of the Landmarks Ordinance, preliminarily find that the demolition of the subject property will adversely affect and destroy significant historical and architectural features of the property and district, and E, issue a preliminary decision disapproving the demolition application. A preliminary decision disapproving the demolition application would provide an opportunity for the applicant to request an informal conference before the commission, and if the informal conference does not reach an accord, a public hearing on the permit application would be scheduled in accordance with the provisions of the Chicago Landmarks Ordinance. Alderman Brian Hopkins and the Ukrainian Village Neighborhood Association opposed the demolition and both submitted letters of opposition that were included in your packets. That concludes my presentation. Please let me know if you have any questions. The property owners are also here if you have any questions for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Does the commission have any questions of Joyce at this time? Seeing none, I will ask the applicant whether they would like to make a statement. Mr. Kotach.
Thank you very much for the commission to review our application, and I would just like to start by saying I am a adopted son of Chicago. Previously lived in the Ukrainian Village and am currently raising my family in the West area. The reason that we have explored this property and came to this commission with the intent to demo was not done to not contribute within the district standards, but rather what we're looking to do is help improve the housing situation. As many of you are aware, there is a housing crisis going on, and by right, under this zoning designation, we do have the ability to have 3 legal units in this property. Our hope was to increase the number of units in the building and thereby help alleviate a housing crisis that is being impacted not only in the Ukrainian Village, but throughout the Chicagoland area, as you members even noted earlier. Second, regarding, I believe someone mentioned a dangerous precedent. You know, I understand the concern, but as I believe it was mentioned, all these matters are done on a case-by-case basis. And as such, without having the ability to understand the condition of the building and whether or not it's structurally sound, it's very difficult to determine whether or not it's financially feasible to be able to keep the building in its current condition. We determined in our review it was dilapidated, and to go through the measures would be financially unsustainable to preserve the building in said way. I would also add in closing that, again, our purpose and our stated goal is to add units to this neighborhood. We still want a building that does fit into the district and, you know, would not stand out. It would not be an eyesore. It would not be a major deviation in design. And we would certainly be open and welcome to commission input with some of that. But we are mostly focused here on the housing situation. So I appreciate everyone taking the time to review this, and happy to answer any questions if you have any for me.
Thank you, Mr. Kotach. Does the commission have any questions for Mr. Kotach? Okay.
I do.
Commissioner Hughes, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kotach, for that explanation and explaining your intention with the property. As much as I agree with there being a housing crisis right now, have you and your team considered vacant lots as an example or as a starting point to add more housing units?
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. And I will say also, I neglected to mention, we actually do have a plan for this property already. We actually attempted to submit them with our demolition permit, and I believe they were removed, but we didn't. I know someone had mentioned leaving this as a vacant lot. That would not be mentioned. Regarding the Ukrainian Village vacant lots, I serve as a real estate agent as well as a developer, and so I have certainly explored the Ukrainian Village, and there does not appear to be many vacant lots at reasonable market prices right now. We have looked, and we would certainly be open to those in future development opportunities. But again, at the time, there was not, when we went under contract on this property and when we eventually closed, there were not other options that we could consider. And
I think we lost you there for a second. Commissioner.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where was I cut off?
Towards the end of your sentence, sir.
Oh, I was just saying that at the closed on this property and had gone under contract, there were not other sufficient options of vacant lots, and that would.
Commissioner Hughes, did you? I think Mr. Kotaj is saying that as they were closing on this particular property, there weren't other vacant. There were not opportunities for other vacant lots. Are there any other questions? Commissioner Burns.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Kotaj, could you tell us how long you've owned this property, and did you purchase it with the intention of raising the building?
Hi, or hello, Commissioner Burns, and apologies, members, if my connection has been cutting out. I'll try removing the video in an attempt to hopefully have a stronger connection to answer your questions. I believe you'd asked me whether or not we bought this with the intention of raising the property. We bought this property with the intention of utilizing the space, in inspecting the property and going through the process. We had determined that the most functional use, given the condition of the building and the integrity of the building, was to repurpose it as a tear down with a new 3 units. And I think, given the price we paid on the property, as someone keen to market prices, we certainly didn't pay land price for this property. We would have gladly kept the building if we felt it was doable, but this was, more of the last option in our determination, not the first option.
So let me drill down a little bit further then to best understand this. Did you have this plan before you closed on the purchase of this property? And my first question was, how long have you owned the property?
Well, I apologize for not answering. I believe we closed on the property in January, approximately January 17th, I believe, of 2022. And no, we did not have plans prior to purchase. In doing our due diligence and working in conjunction with our architect, we came to the determination much later. I believe we submitted permits, plans for review in March, I believe. And this was, or maybe later than that, but I believe we were just added on. We were sort of a late add-on to your commission. So it was not, again, the first response or first option.
So then one more follow-up question, please, and then I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Were you aware of the district designation as a landmark district at the time of purchasing the property?
So I was not aware that this was a contributing building. We had done our normal course of due diligence, reviewing the property. We'd inquired from the previous seller if they had any knowledge of it, and we were unable to find that information. I should mention, I actually used to live on the 2200 block of Walton. I shared an alley with this building, so I am familiar with the area, but I was unaware at the time that it extended onto this property as well.
Let me go with Deanna and then Commissioner Cox, please. Deanna.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to just provide some clarification to the commission members as you are obviously discussing this and determining on your decision. So as the owner stated, he has some concerns about the condition, and I wanted to just reiterate that this is a preliminary decision on your part that sets forward a process of going through potentially a public hearing where more information can be brought into the discussion, and that full record would be then forwarded to you for your final decision. The second thing I wanted to mention is that following the designation of this district, the information was recorded on the deeds. So the properties, the indication that the property is in landmark district is basically recorded. And then the third point that the owner brought up was the financial implications. And again, your decision regarding contributing, non-contributing is not based on financial information or any other considerations. However, if there is a final determination to deny, there is in the landmarks ordinance an opportunity for the owner to apply for economic hardship, whereby he can then demonstrate whether there is an actual economic hardship that you would review.
Thank you, Deanna. Commissioner Cox.
Yes, I just wanted to understand, it is not clear to me, was the property purchased for a kind of speculative real estate rental acquisition? And did you purchase it with the idea that it would be a 2-flat? I'm not clear I understand the circumstances in which you purchased it.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Cox, for that question, and allow me to clarify. So I am an investor. I am a building owner on the 2300 block of Augusta. So again, going to the point of my roots being in Chicago now and only trying to strengthen them, you know, I have a great deal of fondness and affection towards the Ukrainian Village, having lived there for several years. And so the other building that I own is 2316 West Augusta. So when I saw this property become available and you know, be something that I thought could continue to be property that I could continue to rent out, I felt that that was a opportunity in that case to fully utilize that.
So you purchased it with the idea of rehabbing it and renting it as a 2-flat?
Yeah, at the initial time of purchase, yes. My hope was that I could make it a 3-unit rental opportunity as an investment. Yes.
And were you able to do any cost estimates as to what it would take to rehabilitate this as a 2 or 3-flat, for that matter?
So I crunched the numbers financially in several ways. The cost feasibility as a 2-unit just did not exist. I determined based on speculative factors such as materials, labor, and obviously other costs in the market that having that 3rd unit would be critical to the viability of the building.
Well, of course, you probably understand the situation that we find ourselves in, because you sound like you are someone who knew it was a historic district. You've lived there. You are very fond of the historic character. That's why you're there. And you originally purchased it with the hope of renovating the building. And of course, it would be incredibly ironic that, you know, you're demolishing the very building and the neighborhood that you love, to gain whatever additional benefit. So, I mean, I can't reconcile, you know, the love and appreciation you have for the district and the neighborhood, and the way in which you are then you show it is by demolishing it. You know, I don't know how you reconcile these two. I'm finding it very difficult to do that.
Well, I appreciate that, Commissioner Cox. And again, I can tell you my building at 2316, I did not demolish. I rehabbed that building, and I made my best efforts in that case, which hopefully shows you my willingness to, at this in this neighborhood, my willingness to try to preserve the integrity and the identity. But again, and I should also mention too, I've also added 2 affordable units to that building on 2316 Augusta. So I'm certainly going to great lengths to help contribute in ways that do show my affection for it. Obviously not all buildings are the same. Not all buildings were built the same way. Not all buildings are maintained the same way. And what I was able to do with 2316 was not what I could do with 2229, which is why I come to you having exhausted other options first. I come to you with this because I'm legitimately concerned with the building, and it comes at a greater cost, but it's what I think needs to be done.
Commissioner Cox, are you?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go with Commissioner Hughes and then Commissioner Ponce.
Yeah.
Try to wrap this up.
Yeah, sorry. I'll stop talking after this, but I think the 2 properties that you're comparing, the context it's not comparable. You have a more kind of commercialized setting for the other property. And this one is, I mean, you saw the elevation, the sight lines, they're all low buildings. They all have the same sort of character to them. So I would encourage you, if the goal is to get the financial game, I'm not sure if this area is in an approved ADU region within the city. I would encourage you to look into that. So building onto the back of the lot, for instance. And I also would encourage you to spread your wings outside of Ukrainian Village, because there are a plethora of vacant lots around the city that could get you that 3 unit that you're looking for.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Ponce? Commissioner Ponce?
Yeah, and then just to follow up what the fellow commissioners have said, but I see this as an opportunity, opportunity to do a deep energy retrofit. If you want to talk about preservation of the neighborhood, you could keep the shell, you can keep the building and do something really, really special, especially now in the light of, if you're familiar, the Chicago Climate Action Plan was just released this week. And it's very much, pushing towards a cleaner, greener Chicago to reduce carbon emissions. So this is an opportunity for you. And I would also check if the area allows ADUs. That's where I see it. You have an advantage here. You can do something really special for the neighborhood.
If I may respond just briefly, I don't believe an ADU unit, just to share with you, is permissible here, because I believe through the RT4 zoning, as I understand it, the 3rd unit would be I could create by right, not through the ADU. But ultimately, we have some concerns with the basement as well, which would require labor-intensive work that the commission may also the commission may not be comfortable with, because I believe there's, as I understand it, for the ADU having added to on the 2316 building, we would have to create windows and dig out and create enough necessary in the basement to create that third unit, whether through the ADU or by right. So, I mean, I'm always happy to try to work and cooperate with the commission, and I certainly appreciate what you're sharing with me. But I do want you to know, again, I have certainly looked at this stuff, and these notes that you're sharing with me, I am taking to heart and will keep in mind.
This is Joyce. I just wanted to say that this property is included in the ADU area in the Northwest region. So just that. And then we are also happy to review any rehabilitation or addition proposals and guide the applicant through that review process, and then the permit review committee process if that is also required.
Thank you, Joyce. And thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, you're on mute.
Thank you. So thank you, all of you, for your comments. We are looking at this, as Joyce had pointed out, that this has been a contributing building to the district. And so with no further questions, I'd like to call for a motion to approve the staff recommendation on the permit application for demolition of 2229 West Augusta Boulevard. And again, Deanna has indicated the process on which this will go. These are the recommendations before you. Are there any questions? If not, I'd like to call for a motion.
So moved. This is Commissioner Burns.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Ponce.
Commissioner Ponce seconds that. I'll do the roll call. Commissioner Jekowitz.
Yes.
Commissioner Cox.
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Tolliver.
Yes.
I also am a yes. The motion carries unanimously. Mr. Kotesh, you have some options in front of you as you move forward. I think that the commission has provided a lot of different options for you. And I would ask you to please take those into account as you move forward, and wish you the best of luck as you proceed.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. The last item on the agenda is the permit review committee reports. This is the report on the projects reviewed at the April 7th meeting. And Commissioner Jekowitz, if you'd like to tell us about that.
Thank you, Chairman. The permit review committee reviewed 4 projects at its April 7th, 2022 meeting. All 4 projects were approved with conditions. The report summarizing the scope of the proposed projects and the committee's decisions was included in your packets. This report is for your information for the record.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Emily, if you could give us a report, please.
Absolutely. So for the month of April, staff reviewed 166 permit applications, 3 of which related to projects reviewed by PRC, and a total of 184 reviews were performed by staff, with the average number of days to issue approval of corrections of 3.2 days.
Thank you, Emily. That's a lot of permits to review.
It is.
Wow, you guys are really killing it. Thank you for all the hard work. With that, with no further business, I'd like to request a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Commissioner
All
Hughes.
right, Commissioner Hughes, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, and the motion carries. We are now adjourned. The permit review committee will begin
In 10 minutes to 25.
Okay, there you have it. Thank you, sir, folks.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next month.